Arrow, another one. All right, so we can grab snare and a synthesizer. That's going to give me a surveil and stuff. They're not even going to stay. Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be playing some more Artifacts. I haven't played it in quite a while. The meta is so aggressive, and Corey Steel Cutter was so popular that it made it very hard to try to resolve a synthesizer on 3. But we're here to play it today because I do think we have a nice solid list, and the meta is kind of simmered down a bit from Corey Steel taking over entirely. And our cornerstone card for our deck is United Battlefront, a card from Tarkir. This card is pretty awesome and will only get better as new sets come out over time, as this works a bit differently and is a lot more powerful with non-creature spells in the deck, obviously, as it works. But look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put up to 2 non-creature, non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest on the bottom of your library. So it looks at 7. Goes pretty deep into the deck, and the best kind of card to hit is Simulacrum Synthesizer. This card, when it enters, it scries 2. When another artifact you control with mana value 3 or greater enters, create a 0/0 construct. It gets a 1/1 for each artifact. That construct is typically on average going to be like a 7/7, anywhere from there and then up most of the time, as you'll always have all these kind of lower to the ground artifacts juicing those constructs. And as you make more constructs, they get larger. So other than that, there is a kind of sweet spot with this deck, and that does reside in the 3 mana slots. As you can see, we do have Synthesizer. We do have all of these other 3 mana artifacts that can do it, and 1 4 mana artifact that can do it. But if you have 2 synthesizers in play, it makes double the tokens, and then things get out of control with the repurposing bay tutoring them out. Braided Net being a nice solid pickup, and a Perilous Snare also being pretty solid, as well as a Exile Source. Outside of that, we are playing Temporary Lockdown. This card is an absolute must in this deck, especially for best of 1, as this is kind of our Corey Steel stopper. And it also helps us against aggro decks. As you'll see, the very first 2 games we play is 2 Corey Steel decks, so we actually perform pretty well against it, at least so it seems in that very finite amount of games. And with that said, we have a couple of other artifacts in here, being Candy Trail, a card is coming back a little bit just because of the Scry 2 being so useful. Arguably the best play is to play one of our tap lands, play an Iron Crag on 2, also playing the Candy Trail, setting up our next turn. And if we have that 3rd land drop with Iron Crag being 4 mana, we can oftentimes set up for our Battlefront and make sure that we have a hit or 2 in that top 2, and then the rest is kind of gravy from there. And the final kind of addition to the deck that is a must is a couple copies of Rest in Peace. Oculus and Omniscience are a very hard deck for us to deal with. We can deal with Oculus a little bit, but Omniscience is almost impossible. And as you'll see, Reanimator sometimes has a showing in today's video, maybe a couple of times. And Rest in Peace can definitely be important to pick up those decks, those oddball kind of Reanimator decks that are running around as well. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and dive into the games. If you all enjoy the content, please consider subscribing. Helps out the channel a ton. And if you have any recommendations that you would like to see in a deck like this, or things that you personally enjoy in your artifact, or even United Battlefront deck, let me know down below. And with that said, let's go game. My opponent's first. I got a pretty solid hand. No synthesizer or anything here, but an exile effect, a card to play if they're not really for that, and another kind of instant speed removal effect, which is great. So it seems like Prowess is the move, unfortunately. Oh, well, never mind. We drew the best card for it. Get to immediately lock them down eventually. There's a Corey Steel Cutter. We can always Saw Blade something here, because we obviously don't want to play Iron Crag into our temporary lockdown, right? So yeah, we're just on Saw Blades here. Just pass it up. Try to just body. Hopefully, honestly, best play. They play 3rd land, play a Slick Shot maybe, and we can take out the Slick Shot for sure. That's maybe, I guess. Not even true, I suppose. Spring-Loaded Trap does a ton of damage too. It does a whopping 5. So it's quite a bit to take out stuff. And they did play in land, so no Spell Pierce that I have to worry about. And Into the Flood Maul is even tough, because if they bounce something post this stuff. Oh, Slick Shot does come in. And the reason I want to get rid of Slick Shot is because he's such a good threat on his own. If they bounce my lockdown, right, where the comparable difference is, if they bounce this, they still have to get Corey Steel online with limited blue mana, it seems. And then this will also come back, but it won't hit anything because it's tap. That's why like maybe a glass casket sometimes on those type of cards is good. But here we are. Another Storm Chasers, sure. Probably not a great way to give it haste. Obviously can't level that up. A land would be best, and we hit it, thankfully. Also turns on our Verge here. We go Iron Crag, and then we play a Braided Net. To allow us to tap their creature every time. We could have, I guess, went for the Snare, but having Braided Net gives us just a bit of protection here. Maybe they have an Abrade in hand. Typically, they play a Braid for mirrors. Could probably be holding it for like a synthesizer. It's just a level up here for an opt. Sure. Doesn't necessarily upset me at all. Gonna get this out of the way. They already played a land and everything. There's no point really wasting time. The only card they can grab is an opt, so it's not gonna be any surprise to us what they grab. So 2 mana, we play Clayfire, we get a land, and then we can't necessarily activate the Repurposing Bay, but I could play Clayfire, get a land, gain a little bit of life here, and then just play the Snare, right? And just exile kind of this Otter. Don't let that get out of hand. And then now Braided Net's open and available to tap any kind of important threat, like a Slick Shot, for example. But Op's there, Op resolves, of course. Stock Up is a card that we're like a little bit afraid of course. With our mana, we have 1, 2, 3. Hit Synthesizer, play Repurposing Bay after this. And all that will be in play, so it'll be a little bit weird. Sleight of hand, opt, sleight of hand, sleight of hand, which is like good and bad news, right? Because on one hand, you're pretty excited about it because it's like, oh, well, you know, your opponent using all their draw effects here, but they're going to be grabbing the best cards that they can. But if they go like a Swift Spear here, we can tap it for a turn, right? So, although just a 1 of Swift Spear, it's weird because you want to tap it just to prevent the fact that they could Monster Rage it and deal like 5-ish damage here, which would be a lot more, obviously. Another land draw, maybe not the best. Let's play Repurposing Bay. Seems like a pretty cut and dry answer. We do play a lot of Iron Crags, so we definitely want to pop the Iron Crag just in case we draw another one here. Clayfire Bricks can kind of sit around. We can always craft with it and make a couple of threats. So we go right into grabbing Synthesizer, of course. I don't mind a Snare on top. Then it's a pass from here. We can tap, play Repurposing Bay, and then Snare, or do whatever we want to do. Or just activate this Repurposing Bay, I suppose. Get rid of the Clayfire Bricks and also exile the Swift Spear. We know we're tapping here. 6 mana is a lot. If they go for the talent, it's going to not necessarily be a blunder, but it's going to really suck for them because that's what we're going to choose to exile with the Snare because we don't have a reason to exile anything else. We can beat... In this here, I'm going to actually save my counter on the Braided Net. I'm not going to stop 1 damage from happening. It's very easy to kind of get in that mindset, like take no damage, take as minimal as possible. But we know we have an answer to this. There's just no reason to really deal with it. This comes in, Synthesizer triggers. Make a 7/7. Now this is going to have a hard time getting through. And then I can activate here. And quite honestly, I'll probably just get rid of this and go grab our 1/4 mana permanent. Just make 2 more threats here, which is enough to be lethal on its own. So, not really needing to grab a Synthesizer, I don't think. I have so many tutors that it's fine. Although, I guess now it's all at 4 besides this one, right? But 1 token is all we need. Unless they give this Death Touch, we're obviously just blocking with all 3. There's no reason to freak out about this. Just make it impossible, right? Monster Rage is never getting through this wall. As much as that 1 mana permanent is good. End of the Flood Maul can start doing some stuff, I guess. Monster Rage times 2, sure. Our braided net did a lot of good work at just stalling off those. They don't even answer one, unfortunately. But yeah, with that said, we basically added, what, 27 to our life total with those. So without a flyer, we don't have to worry about anything. And with that, we'll move on. And these are fine because we are on the play. We'll see what we're against. I see a blue. Doesn't really necessarily give me all the information. Could be a Spell Pierce. I'm going to go for Snare, or Ironcrag here, not Snare. Ironcrag here because we'll have Snare available next turn if something happened. And if we don't, we can then go for the Battlefront if we want, depending what's kind of up. Rust in Peace, obviously not proven to be great. Is it again? There's Draycatcher. Sure. So for me, obviously I could go for Battlefronts, but missing the lands here is kind of one of those weird things you have to think about, where it's like we're likely to have a lot of lands in these next 7-ish cards. So I genuinely feel better about the Battlefronts if I draw lands from this moment on. You know, opt, although Battlefront might just come in regardless. Not really sure. Okay, with 3 Battlefronts, I guess I got to start wheeling them, right? And maybe I lied. So temporary lockdown's good because it does just answer this creature that's currently in play. But I don't really want to give up my mana. I definitely want to grab the clay fire bricks. But I guess if temporary lockdown ever gets bounced, I get my clay fire bricks back, right? This sucks because it kind of sets us back mana. Because again, our Ironcrag is taken here. But I think it's like okay overall. And then I didn't really count how many lands were in that. There weren't many. There was 2 and 5 grabs. So the thing I was talking about earlier, where lands do kind of have pockets in your deck for the most part, like this might be a scenario where that happens. But now Thunder Trap Trainer, interesting. That's a really cool card to be playing in this deck. I don't know. I've had a couple of talks about, like, is Draycatcher the truth or whatever? Is it not? Or is it awesome? Is it bad? And I think in a situation like this, I kind of want to Battlefront again, even though I have a guaranteed way to just pick up the Corey Steel Cutter. Man, it's just a weird one, huh? Let's gamble. The creature's tapped, right? Yeah. The synthesizer comes in at least. Springloader Trap pops that. At the very least, Braided Net can come in, make an artifact. So what we're going to do here is we're going to stack it like this because we're going to try to Battlefront again. And in that way, we guarantee that we hit the Braided Net. But we also get to make a land drop guaranteed. Could argue throw a Braided Net to the bottom, Surveil. But if we would have stacked the opposite way, of course, we would have the synthesizer in play and all that would be good. But it's also weird because I just have the snare in hand. And it's like, should I not just snare this Corey Steel? But realistically, I'm just digging for like a second lockdown. Because now, like, just getting rid of the Corey Steels, whatever. 2 mana held up. We're going to Surveil here. Arrow another one. Alright, so we can grab Snare and a Synthesizer. That's going to give me a Surveil and stuff. They're not even going to stay. Okay, cool. So if Spell Pierce would have came up, obviously we would have lost, but sometimes against the Prowess deck, you have to take the gamble. All right, so this is an interesting one. Do we play this to manipulate our top deck? And I almost feel like the answer is yes. And then we can just play the tap land after. We can always play the tap land later too. I'm going to play a Plains. I'm going to go right into a Candy Trail. Just because I don't really want more top decks like that, right? So I'm going to bottom both of those. And if I happen to rip another land, then so be it. But grabbing another Candy Trail doesn't seem like the right move. And now we go right into an Ironcrag. And now we have the opportunity to play this on 3 instead of another untapped land because we have the Ironcrag to play our Snare. Rakdos Reanimator. Okay. Very cool. What are we putting in there? Italy? Our deck's like so-so when it comes to that, right? It's kind of like we're a good deck to hit with that type of stuff. I do want to draw a card, but my lands will enter tapped regardless, right? So, I mean, that's still only 2 mana. So let's go ahead and shuffle around. Go ahead and keep it going. And then we're going to look to draw a card on instep. We could potentially represent a No More Lies, but our opponent should call that bluff all day. Especially with what deck they're playing. They should never believe it. We do have Rest in Peace, though. And Rest in Peace is an auto win in this situation. Weirdly enough, I might even have to snare this just so... Okay, well, there is a more important threat, I guess. I'm going to pop this and just draw a card. Not quite the card we want to see. There's an Atraxa, not necessarily a card I care about. We have an Iron Crag anyway, so I guess... And no Surveil land here, so it's kind of whatever. I'm just going to go ahead and Battlefront. Just get it out of the way. Oh, another Iron Crag and a Snare. Digging for that Rest in Peace best we can. Obviously, we'll keep the untapped source. And I guess... Fear? I don't know. It's the only actual threat in play. We'll play our tap land. Call it a day. It's a tough look. We really need that Rest in Peace. 5 cards on the bottom moved. We do play 2, so within the next 41. There's an Natali, so... They hit a temporary lockdown, which weirdly works well if they want to play it. And I say weirdly because it takes my Iron Crag and my Clayfire bricks. The only problem is it takes their Bitter Triumph, I guess. It's kind of a wash on that. And another Clayfire bricks is drawn, so we'll play it. And as much as it sucks, and what is kind of weird that they went for an Natali over to Traxo, which typically means they have another reanimate spell. So I'm just going to absorb this for now. And the problem being, now Natali is on the battlefield, regardless of what we do. And there's an Atraxa. But unless I hit kind of what I need to hit, like a Rest in Peace to shut this off, not a whole lot I can do. It always sucks when you do play a card for this matchup and you just don't see it, but... Only 2, we're not really likely to see it, so it's one of those things when we can find it, it's awesome for the matchups it's good in, but whenever we don't want to see it, like, very awesome to not see it. But Battlefront miss a little bit tough. Now we have to somehow deal with this thing. I don't know how we deal with it, but somehow we deal with it. They could even torch their own Atraxa to pop this temporary lockdown if they wanted to. Well, I mean, that's one way to do it, I suppose. Now they're going to bring back Valgavoth. Okay. I don't even think I waste time. I think I have to craft this to look to draw. But then it just doesn't matter, right? Because they still get it, but I still need to draw stuff. I don't think it matters in the long run. I think I gotta craft this and hopefully do it. Or just draw something that matters. Taking the 7 damage is whatever here, I think. Bring back Valgavoth. Don't get me wrong. Their deck's sick if, you know, I never do anything. Oh, and there's a synthesizer. Here, I guess. Yeah, so it was never coming. Oh, well. All right, opponents first. I mean, we have about the best reactionary hand we can have while also having kind of like a hand that works well if our opponent really doesn't do anything with the bricks in the snare, but the 2 spring-loaded traps obviously good against aggro for the most part. Plus, of course, they have vigilance and then they do nothing. But oh well, okay. Fair. That's on me. And okay. Alright, so you have a protection spell held up. Alright. That's cool. I think I'm going to reveal that I'm artifacts. Or maybe I just make them protect their creature. I don't know. If I make them protect their creature, then I can snare it, right? But they could... There's technically auras that can give it vigilance, right? Man, like, I don't know, man. I feel like making the deck harder than it needs to be is a bit weird. You know what I mean? Sure. But now I don't know what it is. Seems like a weird build of it for sure. So I mean, we're just gonna lock that down. I would have to feel like Caretaker's Talent is in this deck, but the Enduring Innocence is also just a nice creature that these decks can just play regardless. It doesn't actually matter. Spring-Loaded Trap number 2. Let's go ahead and deck then at this point, but we're still going to play the Anchorage here, I think. Probably not. It actually doesn't matter, I don't think. I think I'd much rather have another Spring-Loaded Trap available. And then maybe at some point we just craft it and start tapping these artifacts and attacking for 5. Might just work. Now this leaves the battlefield and comes back, right? Exile another, yeah, so it'd be gone. Okay. Nice card, Forehead. A tap land, sure. Card advantage doesn't really matter that much if we can never get a synthesizer online, but if I can never draw a land, we'll never get it online and it just won't matter. Go ahead. Now I have a 5/5 that can technically kind of block for free. You leave that thing alone. It does nothing. A lot of lands hit here for us. This is exactly the fear I was talking about whenever I brought up the United Battlefronts in the previous game. Shelter by Ghost. Sure. Okay. Interesting. I mean, it draws you a million cards, so why not? They have cards, I have lands, but they've hit the land since, so it's kind of weird. There's an Audacity, sure. I didn't bring this up, so I'm going to get hit for 5, which is tough, but it just is what it is. And there's the Synthesizer, which is pretty nice. They have my Snare under there, which will actually give me what I want back. Do you just have the protection spell? Let's play a Synthesizer. We're gonna get it back in the way we need to. If we launch the Spring-Loaded Trap, we get actually, I don't want to say screwed because that's not the idea, but they could cast a protection spell after we pay all the ward and stuff and not lose their thing. But at least this way we actually take the Audacity and they don't draw an additional card. Now we make a construct, and then we can exile, I don't know, this one, I guess. Now we have a construct, which is nice. And we hope to, at some point, rip like a United Battlefront. So their deck at this point has been built up to the point that the lands are going to start getting out of the way, and then we should start hitting a lot of artifacts. Obviously, there was a candy trail there, and maybe we should have kept it, because I guess it's 1 mana play it, scry 2, and then draw, and then we have 3 mana to play it. It just seems weird, you know what I mean? It just seems like a hard card to keep on top whenever you have such hits that you could hit if you just move that card out of your way. But we'll see. If they popped a lockdown, that'll be interesting. Seal of Existence. Okay. Shelter by Ghost is obviously going to come back and take out the Synthesizer if I had to guess. That's not protectable, but it's ward 3. It's a lot, but I would assume Synthesizer's getting eaten here. Also, their white mana's down, by the way. Okay. I'll go grab my land. Looking at all those Battlefronts together actually is like infuriating. Like, it sucks to look at that. It's really annoying. weird deck we're up against. Well, now the protection spell's back. Obviously, I'll block if I'm given the opportunity. The seal's always interesting. Well, there's a snare. So it's awkward because we want to snare here. And I could do one of two things. I could play this snare. And I can now I could take this seal back. Which would then give me another snare. But how does that end up working? I don't really want to get my lockdown back. Because if I get my lockdown back, I lose my construct, right? So I guess it's just like, grab this. I make another construct, which is awesome. And I get my snare back regardless. And then I guess, like, you could argue to take the seal, but I don't think that's worth it. I'll give them another card at this point. I don't really care about the Audacity going in the graveyard. Honestly, having to play around it is a little more annoying than anything else. But if they want to use their protection spell here as well, like, that's perfectly fine with me. Like, that's great. Now, will they have another one? Maybe. I'm not sure or sold on that. But I will threaten to take over half your life total here. They block, which is fine. They're gaining life on my turn. It's unfair. But let's say I have answers to constructs. It's going to get a little wild here. That's why I was like, not taking the synthesizer seems so crazy to me. Now again, this does have trample and they can put a counter on a thing, but it's going to draw 3 cards, which is the absurd thing on the night. Obviously, this is never touching us as long as we can pop it or double block it or whatever. It's an interesting deck they're playing. I can't imagine aggro has like a great chance to beat it. It feels like a very tough situation. And there's a Hall Creeper. Another counter on a thing. Also, the Scavenger puts a counter on a thing. This is a really cool deck our opponent's playing. But honestly, more than anything, if I can just spring load a trap that'd be awesome. That white land enters tapped. Oh, and they attack for me. Everything we wanted. Here's just 5 solid damage off the board. And now I have so much damage coming back. Sure, an enchantment enters, I guess. Iron Crag, you are disappointing to say the least. This costs 7. I have exactly. So I should be able to play this 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. And I can craft it with the Iron Crag, which is nice. All right, so this can't block. This creature can't be blocked. Okay. Like, I mean, I'm in there. They have to block 2 of these. So then they're left with what? Probably Calyx left. And they're down to 2, and they have no life gainers left, so it's definitely interesting. I have 2 tokens on the battlefield. They could do some damage with something like this, but just a Battlefront, by the way, would be super sick. Obviously, it'd be our best draw, not particularly close. Draw 3 more cards, I guess. Temporary lockdown, cannot deal with Enduring Innocence. 33 cards to 43, so they've seen 10 extra. At this point, I don't actually remember who was on the play or the draw. This is where a situation where the game's gotten drawn out so long that the player draw doesn't really matter that much anymore. So what's up? They can take my snare and get a Shelter by Ghost ×2. And then they could do something there, but they might be just looking to exile token. Then put a counter on something. And then obviously we're like, unless they give it trample, I'm blocking it, but like they still have 2 11/11s. Audacity for trample. Okay. Load it up. You got ethereal armors and stuff. Got 22 life to get through. Definitely can do pretty well at it. And also, if it's just an attack here, like, there's no point blocking. I want my creatures to be as wide as possible. The 2 damage might be relevant. If they make another copy of Shelter, put it on Scavenger, absorb one of my 11/11s, then it becomes this weird thing of, like, they're able to block the other one, and then the 4 damage might matter. I would assume Shelter's going to go on Scavenger, right? Maybe they feel like Scavenger has to block, so they don't want to. But I feel like if you're going to exile a token anyway, why not give it to the other creature so that creature now has lifelink and increases your life total a little bit? And like all these counters should be going on the Scavenger unless they have an answer to everything. But sure. Do we rip something good, or do we ultimately lose this game? It's a tough one. Oh, it seems like the loss is in the books. 14 is hard. And this is 4 mana to do. So if I craft both, which requires both my tokens, I can then technically block Calyx for 10 damage. It's just going to be so hard, man. Every single creature they play is so much that they get. I just can't seem to get through this. I mean, the land draws haven't helped at all, and no Battlefront draws here. Obviously, to some extent, that matters a bit. But here, then has to be this, right? Yeah. And turn. It's tough. It's a tough one. Tap here. Obviously, we're just gonna bring it all up. This doesn't tell you how good Shelter by Ghost is. Like, I don't know what will. I can flash something in here, obviously. Seems like they have something. There's no way this damage happens, right? Did they miscalculate or something? Did they mess up? Yeah, then just pick out my synthesizer. That makes sense. I just don't know why rebuilding here would be the way to go. I feel like with 5 cards in hand, we had to have something. Right? Like, what? I think it was just a mistake by them, to be honest. Obviously, I feel like this game's going to end very anticlimactically with a just a land rip off the top, to be quite honest. Sure. Yeah, and that's just not going to get anything done, really. They have a land to bring up and end the game. It's just whether or not they do it. And I believe that's just going to do it regardless. I don't know how we ever get out of this game. I'm just going to move on. All right. Well, in this game, I see the best card in my deck, so that's pretty cool. Obviously outside of Synthesizer, I guess, but... Well, that works pretty well. Which artifact would you like, sir? Repurposing Bay would make sense. Clay Fire Bricks also makes sense. Rest in Peace isn't takeable. It's just mono black. Liliana try to control the game, which idealistically should be a fine matchup for us, but we'll see. We're on the draw all lands at the beginning of the game plan again. Oh, no other removal. Fair enough, I guess. All these land draws are fine, though, whenever it comes to, like, the Battlefront plan. Do this, gain a little life. If this is Covert's list, they're not going to have slashes and stuff, but I doubt it. Oh, well, okay, sure. I mean, I guess at this point, I'm going to play this, and because of Slasher, I'm going to play a Rest in Peace. Because anytime I answer a Slasher, Rest in Peace gets rid of it for free, and I don't necessarily care that much. Slasher? Which then means, like, I can't play Battlefront for the risk of missing, because then if they go land, and after... Okay. No card gifted. They take my Battlefront. I think that was the... Jesus, man. Why am I just only drawing lands these two games? I was so excited that I had a Battlefront to play, and then I go into discard, and now I really can't do anything. Well, we can bully a Liliana, and honestly, discarding here doesn't bother me at all. So, that's pretty good. Come up. We can activate this here, which is probably better. That's a pretty good card. That makes a card pretty hard for them to answer. Make another map. We slap that for 3. We can kind of let it go for a turn if we want. I mean, we're probably going to have to. Candy Trail might be the card I let go. Although the mana's pretty high here, right? This is also a land I can make back, but I need the artifact. I guess it's just the land here. Get rid of an Unholy Annex. Interesting. I want to cut down to be relevant, even though I guess I have enough artifacts that it doesn't matter. These are all bad. We just look for a synthesizer in this spot. Now we play 1,000 Moon Smithy. Now there's a 5/5. They minus the Lily. Obviously, our 5/5 stays. They'll probably only ever do that if it's like minus Lily, pop my 5/5, and then they play a second Lily and then plus. But this last card in our hand can 100% be removed at any point. Yep. All right, sure. Over, I guess Rest in Peace isn't an artifact. Put a stop here. Hey, Arena. Hey, knock, knock. Arena. That's not how that works. Like, I put a stop with this on the stack. What are we doing? Like, that's not even... Whatever, man. I don't care. Fine. When this artifact enters, you scry to... Okay. We can take this out, but I think it's just go straight for synthesizer, right? Like, what other thing would we be doing here? Grab a synthesizer now. Try to. Just bottom both of those. Could keep it in case of more discard effects. Realistically, we should be able to beat an Unholy Annex in a situation like this when we have a permanent tutor every turn. But they could also just bring up his land, hit us for 3, drain us for like 2 more, and go that route. But I don't know what route they really will go. Just cracked all my fingers, which is pretty fun. Alright, so that's the route they're going, which is fun. Loaded traps are not great for this. I don't really want to tap these quite yet because it doesn't work the way we want. So we'll decline here. And then I could play a spring-loaded trap and take it out. I could do that and go get what? 1 mana is another Candy Trail. I mean, I guess I probably want to grab a 2 mana thing anyway. It's okay, opponent. I'm sorry. Like, I don't think it's that cut and dry, that easy. I'm trying to think of all my spells that don't actually answer this land, which is quite funny. Because they have to be tapped to deal damage. The other card is a non-land permanent. And, yeah, I really don't know if I have a way to deal with this just straight up outside of making creatures, obviously. And I pop a 1 mana artifact, so Synthesizer's not triggering this turn. I mean, I guess I could have played a Spring-Loaded Trap and then pop it, just grab a second Synthesizer and go that route. Or just grab an Exile effect for this, but... either way, we take it. We move on. All right, getting to go first here with this type of hand is pretty awesome, so we'll keep. we get to look at our top card regardless, so we might as well do this. A land here I don't really care about. We'll find more, I would hope. But based on my day of the games that I've played, it seems like I'm going to find them often. Or far too often. So now we can go Iron Crag. Right in the Candy Trail. Get a look. We're definitely looking for Rest in Peace. Keep. I will keep that. They show me that they're Reanimator right away, which just puts us immediately into playing a Rest in Peace. And my favorite part about this is I basically get to redeem my game from earlier where I was like, I do play Rest in Peace if I could just draw it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to really hold for too much longer. I'm just going to let my opponent know what the deal is. And we're going to go from there. I honestly want to crack the Candy Trail. This ain't my stack. I'm sorry, opponent. Now that's a bomb. Yeah. Well, it just sucks, man. It, like, the Reanimator deck's not even what the Rest in Peace is in here for. This Reanimator deck, I can typically beat. Like, I have good chances to beat the deck. Because unless it's a Valgavoth and I awkwardly have to target it, which I also make a ton of artifacts that I can target a Valgavoth, it's not that big of a deal. It's just that the Oculus deck is very hard to beat. It's the Omniscience deck is so hard to beat. Honestly, it's Omniscience. Like, I just can't really compete against that, so I have to play it. And then just a deck like that that's really fun, you just get punished for other decks existing. All right, so here we are with the outro. The deck is solid. I do, however, I think I have one major change that I want, and I think it's the fact that I much rather... A Candy Trail is awesome. It is cool. I like playing this card in general. But I think the synergy of, like, what we did in that last game, obviously the Rest in Peace won the last game, but I think the synergy of, like, play Candy Trail after we play Iron Crag, we went, like, tap land into Iron Crag into a Candy Trail, which is what is very good, especially when you're trying to line up your Battlefronts. I, however, think with Repurposing Bay, it's come up multiple times. I think you have to play another 4-mana artifact, and Thousand Moon Smitty as a second of would be fine. I ran into issues where people do play copies of Blast Zone, and having everything at 3 mana just meant, oh, I can't go get a thing that I can make tokens immediately. Because when this flips and when this resolves and is good, you get to make the tokens almost instantaneously, and that's awesome. However, this deck felt fine. I think the lockdowns are good. That helps obviously our aggro matchups. Is aggro going to be on the play and win regardless of what you do? Sometimes, yes. There's literally nothing you can do. But I think with temporary lockdown, spring-loaded trap, and then to an extent the snares, or just like you take the turn off to Iron Crag and then hopefully Battlefront hit something good. Like, as you saw, we tried in the one match. But I think it dealt with aggro fine enough that it's probably okay to play. There is just some matchups this deck really can't lose to, and that's oftentimes going to be your mid-range matchups. You will always lose to stuff somehow just because Arena is going to Arena, or like variance is just going to variance. It's going to happen regardless of what you do. There's nothing you can do to stop it. You will lose matchups you're supposed to win, just like you're going to win matchups you never should. So it's just one of those things where the deck felt good. This is kind of taken from the list that did well at the event. I think they got 10th at the Star City event, I believe. That was the last big event we had. I could be wrong about that. But this is kind of derived from that and really using like the Battlefront as kind of the footnote card along with the Simulacrum synthesizer. So with all that said, I hope you all enjoyed regardless, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.